If you're a British viewer, chances are you're familiar with Little Britain. But if you aren't, here's a little history. Little Britain was a sketch show devised by comedy duo Matt Lucas and David Walliams, which originally started out as an audio show on BBC Radio 4, but quickly found fame and made the jump to TV. With the two stars playing most of the roles themselves, with other minor cast members recurring throughout, it went on to become a huge hit with audiences, constantly pulling in huge ratings and rave reviews. It was also narrated by Tom Baker, best known for playing the 4th Doctor in Doctor Who from 1974 to 1981, and, as a coincidence, both Lucas and Walliams would go on to feature in the show too, with Lucas playing the 12th Doctor's alien companion Nardole, and Walliams playing a coward! In the end, 3 series of Little Britain ran on the BBC, as well as a comic relief special, a 2-part Christmas special, and a live version. The duo also took it across the Atlantic with a 4-part series titled Little Britain USA, which also starred Paul Rudd as the French president. The success of Little Britain, of course, led to a video game. Why wouldn't it? Every semi-successful franchise since the 1980s has got on a video game, so of course it had to. Was it any good? Let's find out. Can't help but notice the amount of developers and publishers who put their name on this. That's a lot of companies for a sub-2-hour game. It starts well. In addition to the obvious voice contributions of Lucas and Walliams, Tom Baker himself has also recorded narration and instructions for the game, which does add that bit of authenticity to it. Plus, you can never go wrong with a bit of Tom Baker. The main game mode is the tour, where you use each of the main characters once to complete an objective and get a high enough score to unlock the next area. Essentially, it's a set of minigames, there's no story. First up is a roller skating level and... Oh god! The controls are absolutely horrific. You essentially move your character across about 5 or 6 predetermined lanes and collect CDs by skating over them or jumping or grinding into them. Or you try to. But everything you do is so slow and delayed, and no matter how much you play it, you struggle to get used to it. The jumping takes an age, and there's even little pauses in the character animations, as if the developers found it impossible to make her move smoothly. This again slows the game down and sucks any life and fun out of it. The sound effects are mostly okay, I guess, but the one that plays when she grinds is terrible, not least because you actually hear it stop and start as it loops around again. Nothing in this whole level is smooth. Also, when you get enough, whatever this is, you can do tricks. These tricks need a 3-button combination and include classics like the ball, the Egyptian, and the super slag? The game tells you when you have the ability to do a trick by playing the most horrendous sound I think I've ever heard. Ugh. It took me almost half an hour to get enough points to get to the next level. Let's hope it's better. Well, it's easier if that counts. This time you simply run up to a diving board of your choice and jump off, again doing a 3-button trick to get more points. Rinse and repeat until you accumulate enough points to move on. Not much to say about this one, other than more terrible sound effects. Level 3 is Pacman. Literally, shit Pacman. You run around a store eating loose biscuits and trying to avoid other people until you eat some cake, which makes them run away for a limited time. I guess the main difference is that you can't see the whole grid and therefore can't see the other people, making it more difficult to avoid them, I think. Take that away though, and it is just Pacman. It's Pacman whichever way you look at it, only much, much worse. The next level takes place in the town of Slut. Classy. Anyone who likes frogs should not play this game, as the objective this time is to kill some frogs. That's it. The whole game. run around the room, by which I mean to predetermined locations, and whack a frog. Because that's all this game is, it's a rip-off of Whack-A-Mole. Starting to see a pattern here. You might think I've raced through these last few, but honestly, they're just so bare bones that there's little to say. Either they're a bad version of a game you already know, or they're original and still bad. But still, there's 3 games to go, and still room to improve. What is this? I have played some bad football games in my time, but this is something else again. The objective is to score 3 goals, with bonus points given if you can get the ball into the target areas. But it's just so hard to know what you're doing. The arrow only gives a basic indication of where the ball's going to go, but I can guarantee that you'll be misled, either by putting in too much or too little power when you think you've nailed it. It's also strangely reminiscent of archery on Wii Sports because there's a wind indicator which also affects the ball's direction if kicked high enough. The opposition team barely moves, only slightly adjusting themselves in attempts to block your, well, pass to yourself. Because that's how you move towards the goal, see? There's no dribbling, no teammates. You put the ball somewhere, hopefully avoiding a defender, and if it does indeed end up in open space, you take your next kick from there. The goalkeeper, and occasionally the others too, also do the strangest squeal of delight when they stop you. Ugh, what a shit game. What a truly awful game this is. I hate it. I hate it. The next game is meant to be some sort of Tetris clone, I think. You have to fill your character up to the brim with food, then vomit over lots of people. Nice. In a way, it's the opposite of Tetris. In that, you try to keep the shapes as low as possible, whereas here, you want to reach the top. The problem is, I couldn't see what I was doing. When playing the game, I couldn't see the food I was dropping in. Looking back to write the script, however, I noticed that there were indeed faint shapes moving in the grid. Whether this is a fault with my copy of the game, or whether it was just a glitch suffered by others, I don't know. Personally, I don't care either. It looks just as shit as all the other ones. Despite my troubles, I replayed a few levels to gain some more points and did manage to unlock the final level, which turned out to be, wouldn't you know it, another clone! At least in part. You ride a bike avoiding increasingly difficult obstacles. Sound familiar? These obstacles can include cars, with both lanes apparently going the same way, roadworks, and stereotypes. The other objective is to pick up copies of a magazine called the Gayer Magazine, because your character is gay. I guess that's the difference from Paperboy. You collect the paper as opposed to delivering it. You also get bonus points for running people down. So hardcore! It's also quite similar to the first level of this very game, only, you know, on a bike. Once you've completed the tour, you can then go on to the challenges, which by the looks of the titles, put you in the same situations again, but with harder objectives. I'm only presuming though, I couldn't be arsed with them, honestly. I hadn't even been playing for 2 hours and I couldn't be bothered to do the challenges. It says a lot about the game if you ask me. And as a result, this game gets no more than a 3 out of 10. Even that's generous when compared to the other reviews of it, but that doesn't mean to say it's good. Because it's bad. It's so bad. The controls are dire, the levels are a mixture of weird, boring, and just bad clones. The sound effects are cheap, and there just isn't enough substance to it. It does at times border on unplayable, and some levels are actually much harder than you'd think as well. It says a lot that I'd only been playing for an hour and a half by the time I'd completed the tour, and still I couldn't bring myself to attempt the challenges. No wonder it's panned. On IGN, it got an unbearable rating of 1.6 out of 10, and its score of 16% also makes it one of the top 5 worst games on game rankings. There are glimmers of positives though. The characters are accurate, and the inclusions of Lucas, Williams, and Baker are fun. I also like how you get to see a clip of the show each time you complete a level. But those aren't enough to save it, not nearly. It's a shame because I think that in the right hands, this could have been a good game. Still, one more positive though. I'm sure that this is the only TV show that Blast have ruined for me.